Dr. Narayan, new series, new set of stocks, but Equitas and JSW Steel is what we have discussed yesterday too.
Well, good morning, everybody. Yes, JSW Steel certainly we did discuss yesterday, and I think the reason for giving off a buy in Equitas is the other stock which we discussed from this space, which was AU Small Bank, and I think the powerful drive upwards in that stock, coupled with reasonably good performances in the other stock from the same space, like Ujjivan, etc. I think Equitas is also revving up, and I do believe there is room on the upside from the current price level. The stock has been excuse me, the stock has shown a very large price action, creating almost something which looks like an engulfing bull kind of price pattern, which comes at the end of a multi-day pullback in this name, and the powerful candlestick pattern, which has also been accompanied by high volumes, I would think would increase the probability that rise should continue till about 155 to 157, or at least we should be seeing some amount of traction till those levels. So with that in mind, recommending a buy with a stop at about 147. JSW, I am actually carrying forward that buy recommendation from yesterday. Very strong situation on the charts. The prices pushing up to new highs. Hardly any loss of price areas or price gains, even during the days or times when the market is undergoing a reaction or the sector is little weak. So that clearly attests to the buyer's clear intent to continue with the rising process. 327, 328 with momentum in full support of the rise. I would believe it could continue to about 338, buy with a stop at 322.
Moving on with technical trades, and Dr. Narayan, HDFC Life recent listing doing really well for itself, and we are seeing that even other insurance companies have been doing quite well in this market. You think there's further room?
Yes, I would definitely believe that there is further room. You see, the entire insurance space is a new space which has got created in the last about year or more, and I would believe it's largely under-owned from both the big investors of the market as well as the institutional set. See, the quality of the companies is above reproach, right? They're all big names, well-established names, so I don't think there is any problem with people wanting to buy into that stocks, and it's a reasonably easy business to understand as well. What was required was some good showing, and I think recent times we have been seeing that ICICI Pru, ICICI Lombard, SBI Life now, I think in a series all of them have been coming out with more than palatable results. I think that would buoy up the interest in the sector, and I'm picking HDFC Life in particular because that stock has shown upward traction right from the day that it got listed, unlike the other names. So clearly this was the one where maximum money interest was visible on the charts, and after undergoing a bit of a consolidation in the last week, it has shown a very decisive breakout to the top side, and even though it has gained about 25-30 points from the breakout point, I think it's just the start of a further move. So I'm recommending it as a trade as well as a medium term kind of investment. For a trade, we can look at a price target around 560 and then continue with it later or review later.
Dr. Narayan, the resistance of 10,600, 620 or 10,650, that is behind us and we are moving higher. One can argue, let's wait for decisive breakout, but options data is suggesting that the next ceiling is around 11,000.
Yes, I think the option call OI concentration is certainly at 11,000. But I think you also have to take account of the fact that that position is only about 40 lakh shares so far, which is certainly not decisive in terms of a position to act as either a target or a resistance. So I think position build will happen across many strikes. But moving on to today or coming back into today, yes, the index is clearly trading above whatever levels we had spoken about, and the next set of meaningful supply zone is not too far away. It's at about 10,720 on the Nifty futures. That's about 40 points away from where we are currently. But Bank Nifty is now starting to rev up a bit. So I think attention may probably shift from Nifty to Bank Nifty. Axis Bank, like you rightly mentioned, maybe even the bad results were already priced in yesterday. That is why we are not seeing any follow-through action to the downside. And with the other banks also chipping in a bit, I think Bank Nifty has the potential to pack some upside action. What is most encouraging about the open is the substantial positive breadth. I think it's running on the future side at almost 5:1 or 6:1 for the advances. As we speak, Axis Bank has become the largest gainer for the day, and it's heartening to see Equitas, National Aluminium, Yes Bank, RBL Bank, etc., on which we had buy calls earlier. I think all of them are doing reasonably well. Reliance leading from the front today is very bullish for the index. So I think we are on a fairly firm wicket for trades. I would.
Let's bring on board Dr. CK Narayan to talk about the markets as a whole, which is anything but tempered. And Reliance Industries is clearly the star of the day, Dr. Narayan. What is it that you're looking at by way of numbers in terms of your targets and stop losses on the stock ahead of its numbers?
Well, I think Reliance is clearly going into the results with a great deal of expectation. Today's price action in particular is up with a gap, and that gap is sustained. We even saw it trading into the four-digit space initially, and it's hovering around that level even as we speak. So clearly there is a great deal of expectation or anticipation about the results, and market is therefore liable for some amount of disappointment in case there is some little bit of mismatch also. But the momentum is good, the overall trend pattern is attractive, even if there is slight mismatch in the expectation and the actual event. I don't believe the fall, if any, could be large. So one should retain the bullish bias, one should retain long positions. Now, whether one can really go in and create long positions at 1,000 rupees, I would not want to venture that particular opinion. I would rather, having waited till now and not created a long, then I would rather wait for the results, see what the market does with it, and only subsequently make a long position in it. I may end up buying it higher, but then that's a risk I need to run in order not to get caught on the wrong side.
And what about your top recommendations?
Well, at the moment, PSU banks are a bit in action. I think they opened and traded well, and even after the open, there seems to be some consistency in the buying. If you look at the last, let's say, 15-20 minutes, the buying still continues in some of this PSU banking space names. So Bank of Baroda is something that I would pick as a buy. It's a pure punt for the day, 144 currently. Can be a buyer in this with a stop at about 141, a day's target at around 148. Another stock that I would want to suggest a buy on would be Adani Enterprise. Adani was, maybe down in the dumps for several weeks, having undergone a lot of price damage too. But I think it's ending this week fairly decently, and that would suggest that some recovery forces are now underway, and therefore at 144 seems to be pretty low risk as a buy. Stop loss at 141, short-term price target at 153 across multiple days.
Dr. Narayan, let's talk about the sugar pack, a relief rally being witnessed. Anything that you'd like to pick out from here?
Well, I think, the word that you use, that it's a relief rally, I think that would be the correct set of words to use always as far as sugar stocks are concerned. I think if you look at the sugar stocks, they generally tend to move as a pack. So picking up stocks really doesn't make too much of a problem because all of them tend to move in unison. Now, among the whole lot, I would definitely say one should take a look at, the stock which is there in the future space. That should be your first port of call, and this is Balrampur Chini. And that stock is trading near the bottom, having reached about 64, 65 levels. And today's price action is the first of the upward green ticks that you're seeing in this particular chart. There is lots of price action to be done before any of these stocks get into any kind of a or even a modicum of an uptrend. So we should not be rushing into it too aggressively, but look at any of the sugar stocks from a bottom fishing perspective. So at the moment I would want to confine it to only Balrampur Chini, where at least getting in and out would be not at all a difficulty, and plus the fact that it's in futures allows me to play it with a lesser amount of money. So Balrampur Chini at 67 is a buy with a stop at about 63.
All right. That's, of course, about the sugar space where Balrampur Chini finds its way as a top pick for Dr. Narayan. But otherwise, outside of the sugar basket, Dr. Narayan, what are the stocks that are looking good to you?
Well, I think, the results flow in AU Small and the kind of response that Ujjivan, Equitas and all the other stocks have given. It's also being reflected in a more recently listed stocks which has been associated with the microfinance area as well. I'm talking about Bandhan Bank here. Bandhan Bank, soon after listing, got a little bit of upside traction, but then almost gave away 60-65% of those gains initially over the last set of days. But today's price action has brought attention back on Bandhan Bank, and it's been reasonably robust since the open and has looked up to about 511, 512 level right now. I think stock can roll on till about 530 and perhaps even across a day or two try to challenge the previous swing high that it had made closer to somewhere around 540. I think Bandhan Bank is a buy with a stop at about 505, short-term price target 530. Second stock that I would want to recommend at this juncture would be Gravita India. This is from the metal space, but it's a converter which is engaged in the lead conversion area. So Gravita is pushed up to new all-time highs at the current price level of about 199 to 200 rupees. Very good momentum also visible in this particular drive on the daily charts. Volumes have looked up. The weekly chart also is quite attractive, forming some interesting price patterns as it were at the high price level. So I think collectively Gravita presents us with a decent buying opportunity here. Currently 199, buy with a stop at 190, short-term price target 220 to 230.
Dr. Narayan, I just want to talk to you about the banking space. Like Avan was flagging off, it's PSU banks all the way. In fact, on the Nifty 500 charts, the top 6 are all mid-cap PSBs. So an Andhra Bank, OBC, Union Bank, Karnataka Bank, all of them are rallying anywhere between 5 to 7%. What exactly are the charts indicating here?
Well, at the moment, we'll have to take this as being a rally because they were all into oversold areas, and therefore this is a bounce from an oversold area, and typically the first phase of a bounce from an oversold area is always shorts getting covered. Now the PSU banking area did not lack in shorting positions, mainly because the news flow there and the price action remained quite resolutely to the downside. And so therefore, I think even a lot of weaker hands had got into the short side of the equation, and my belief is that a substantial amount of shorts also got rolled over at the change of the settlement yesterday. But many of them had also reached prior swing lows. For example, if you take something which has been trounced, like let's say Allahabad Bank or Andhra Bank for that matter, or even Bank of Baroda, which if you take among the better ones, most of these names had actually reached prior swing lows during this decline, and I think hardly one or two names actually made new lows which were seen, let's say, beyond what we had seen sometime back in Feb of this year. So it was like a retest of the low, and then there was this surge in the Bank Nifty which climbed about 25,000, created a small upside momentum of a temporary nature, and Yes Bank came and surprised the street, and Axis Bank bad numbers were already factored. So collectively that has produced a wave of shorts getting covered on the PSU Bank. I think that is what you are witnessing here. The trend will have to sustain for several days for people to come in and really buy them afresh. Now that is something we would want to see rather than forecast that it will happen.
Dr. Narayan, you are going with And some of the names which are, again, not from a large cap space, but stocks like Century Textile and United Breweries, these stocks have been doing well of late. What's your rationale over here to suggest a buy call?
Well, I think Century, like many stocks that we have covered, is making that consolidation pattern at the bottom, some of them looking like inverted head and shoulders, some of them looking like rounding patterns, some of them just plain consolidation, and then most of the names that we have all been covering recently have staged this breakout upward from this lower level consolidation. I think that is what is creating some amount of upside momentum. And Century Textile is doing likewise at the current prices around 1245 to 1250. So I would want to be a buyer in Century at this level using about a 12 to 15 rupees stop loss. And we can look for a price ride till about 1270, 1275 in the short run. Similarly, United Breweries, on the other hand, is not a consolidation breakout at the bottom. Instead, it is something which is staging a breakout to the top side from an ongoing consolidation. So it's actually breakout to new highs. And it's not at a new high actually yet, but certainly as a new high closing, if it were to finish in and around this level. And that's another style of consolidation, one which could actually lead to greater momentum ahead, and where the selling resistance might be negligible, because as you step into newer highs, there are lesser and lesser folks who want to take profits or sell off the stock. So I think UBL is also a breakout, but of a different nature, currently at about 1185.90 price zone. Can buy this also with a 15 rupees stop loss. Price target for today and ahead between 1205 to 1220.
Let's take some more trading ideas. And Dr. Narayan, PSU banks are doing well. OBC is a buy for you.
Yeah, I think, they are all moving as a basket, and within that, we have to pick one which is showing a better momentum. And I would believe the intraday chart of Oriental Bank shows it to be a nice sharp rise and a flag type consolidation going on. Possibly, today may not be the time for breakout because nothing is left now. But maybe tomorrow when we reassemble, this is a stock which could continue higher. So currently around 93 of 94 levels. Buy this with a stop at 91, and we can look for a target 9900 maybe by Monday.
CK, we're trying to get down to the reason why PC Jeweler is down, but how should a trader now approach this kind of a stock?
Well, this seems to be clearly some leverage which is getting unwound. Now, whether that leverage is from traders who have bought, or it is from stocks which are pledged, or it really doesn't matter. This is leverage getting unwound, and there is no price level that is being looked at. At such times, it would be foolish to get in the way of this and say that, okay, here is a bottom, or here is some kind of support level on chart, or here is some valuation parameter kicking in. I think all those kinds of things would be absolutely absurd, because when the momentum is very, very high, there is no logic which can be applied. There is no sensible analysis also which applies to any stock. So we should allow this to settle down wherever it goes and settle down, and then only take a view. Whether you want to take that view fundamentally or technically, you should allow this storm to pass. I don't believe one should really get in the way of PC Jeweler at this moment. Let it settle down wherever it does, and after that, if one is still interested to look at it, then we can come back to it.